Today we're going through inverse trig ratios. And you'll need a calculator. You should have a calculator always when you come to math class, because you will need one. Okay, but I need it quiet, please. Inverse trig ratios. So when we use these, the goal is you're looking for a missing angle in a right triangle. Okay, so the trig ratios we used yesterday helped you find missing side lengths. Inverse trig help you find missing angles, not the 90-degree angle, but the missing acute angles. So it says at the top, if tangent of 30 is approximately 0.58, then it follows that if the tangent of an acute angle is 0.58, the angle measure would be 30. Okay, so we're kind of working backwards. Yesterday we were finding the ratio. Today it's like we're given the ratio, we're finding the angle. So it's the reverse or the inverse process, just like addition, subtraction, or inverses. This is the inverse for trig. So inverse trig ratio is finding the angle measure given the trig ratio. Most of you on your calculators will use the second key or the shift key. I know it says shift on some of your calculators, the second key or the shift key, to find the measure of the angle. So then it lists these relationships. So notice these are all the same. It just gives the three different trig functions. So if sine of angle A, so A is an angle, equals X, then this is what it looks like inversely. This little -1, it looks like a -1 exponent, but this is inverse sine of X. So this right here, the way you say that is inverse sine of X. And inverse sine of X is going to equal the measure of angle A. So it's kind of like the input and output from those equations have switched. Normally we have an angle inside and we get a ratio. Now we're putting the ratio inside and getting the angle. And then it shows the same relationship for cosine and tangent. So I want to show you how this is used. And then again, on your calculators, you're making sure that you can type this in to get the correct answers as well. So in these examples, you're finding the indicated angle measure to the nearest tenth. Tenth is how many decimal places? How many? 1. So 1 decimal place. Okay, so we're finding in number 1, we want to find the measure of angle A. So I'm going to just mark here, this is the angle I'm looking for. Now, I notice I am given 2 sides of my right triangle. I don't need the third side. Okay, I'm not looking for that. But what I want to do is remember SOHCAHTOA, and I want to label the 2 sides that I have. Are they the opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse of the triangle? So the 27, is that the opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse? 27 is the hypotenuse. What is the 18? Opposite the angle A. So again, it's off of angle A. So if I have hypotenuse and opposite, which trig function am I using? I'm using sine because I have opposite and hypotenuse, O and H. So this is how I set it up. It's always sine of the angle. The angle is A. So sine of A is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. So 18 over 27. Now I realize you can simplify 18 over 27. You don't have to. From here, because I'm looking for the angle, I am trying to solve for A. So what I end up doing is, in order to cancel out the sign, you can't divide by SIN. You can't divide by sign. Sign on its own is nothing. If I just type sign into my calculator and hit enter, it gives me an error. The reason a parenthesis comes up is it tells you I have to put something in there for it to calculate. Sign is a function. Sign is not anything on its own without a number in it. So I can't divide by sign. What I do to cancel it out is I take the inverse. So I'm going to be doing inverse sine of each side. So of sine of A is equal to inverse sine of my other side, 18 over 27. So also I'm taking the inverse. I am not multiplying by inverse sine. So don't do this. I hate to even write this because I don't want you to do this. But if you want to write it down to tell yourself, do not do this. You are not doing this. Multiply by inverse sine. This is what I see. I'm multiplying by inverse sine on both sides. No, you're not. That doesn't make sense. You are taking the inverse of both sides. So this notationally is wrong. That's not what you're doing. Okay? Then what happens over here, these cancel. It's like addition and subtraction. Inverses cancel each other out. So these cancel out. So I just have angle A. This I type in my calculator. So inverse sine, I have to type in on mine. The inverses are right above the sine, cosine, tangent keys. You have to hit second. Most of you will have to hit second or shift. So I have to hit second sine for the inverse sine, and then I type in 18 divided by 27, close the parentheses, and hit enter. And then it gives you the angle, and we're rounding to 1 decimal place, so 41.8. So the measure of angle A is 41.8 degrees. You might have to do, well, you might have to type in 18 divided by 27 first. Enter, and then do shift inverse. So just make sure you hit enter before with the division mark. Okay, some of you had calculators where you had to type the angle in first and then you had to hit sign, like you have to type in this part first. If that's you, type in 18 divided by 27, hit enter, and then do shift sign for the inverse. I want to go through one more, and then 3 I'll leave for you, and I'll walk around. So if you do have calculator issues, let me know. So number 2, if we're looking for B, measure of angle B. So again, label the 2 sides you're given in terms of opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse. What is the 6? The adjacent. What is the 20? The opposite. So what trig function is used? Tangent. Because it has O and A, opposite and adjacent. So I would have tangent of B is equal to opposite over adjacent. So 20 over 6. Okay, and then if you can squeeze it in, like I'm taking now inverse tangent of both sides. But notice even on the right side, you write the inverse tangent in front because you're taking inverse tangent, you're not multiplying by it. It's like taking a square root. You don't multiply a square root sign, you take the square root. So these cancel, so I just have angle B is equal to, and then on my calculator, I do second tangent, inverse tangent of 20 divided by 6? Close the parentheses, hit enter. So that should be about 73.3 degrees. Okay, I want you to do number 3. I'll walk around, find the measure of angle A, and like I said, I'll answer any calculator questions as well. $78.5.
So like here, you have to type in 20 divided by 6, enter, and then second. Oh, okay. So type in the ratio, hit enter, and then do second. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Why did I do so bad at my softball? I got 88 on
Yeah, that's right.
that makes sense. I got a 90 on those.
You guys must really suck.
The tests are stupid.
All right. Just to double check, because I think we're all good, but just to double check, make sure you had cosine of A is 3 over 15, inverse cosine 78.5 degrees. Okay, then we are just going to go through one of these. With these, you are solving, I need it quiet, please. Solving a right triangle. The sheets are up if you can grab them. Solving a right triangle, what this means, if the directions just say solve the triangle, that means you find all angle measures and all side measures. So you have 6 answers. You need to all 3 angles, all 3 sides. Some of those are already given. Okay, so if we look at this triangle in 4, our 3 angles are X, Y, and Z. So for angles, notice not everything is typed on here, but it has measure of angle X equals. We don't know what X is right now. We are also going to have to find measure of angle Y and measure of angle Z. We do know the measure of angle Z already. That is 90 degrees. So we know one of our 3 angles. For sides, they have written XZ. We also have ZY, or YZ if you wanted to write it that way. And then we also have XY that we need to find. We know 2 of them. XZ we know is 5. ZY we know is 9. So we have 1 side left to find. Now, if you know 2 of the sides, you should be able to already find the 3rd side. Anyone know how we could find that 3rd side? We could use SOHCAHTOA. Well, actually, we couldn't. Actually, I take that back. We can't because we don't know either of these angles. But you can use Pythagorean theorem. If you know 2 sides of a right triangle, don't forget Pythagorean theorem we covered before, trig ratios. So we can use Pythagorean theorem to find XY. I'm going to abbreviate theorem there. My writing's off. So if I call this side like X for right now, just for my equation, so that's 5 squared plus 9 squared should equal X squared. And I solve for X. 5 squared I know is 25. 9 squared is 81. Add those together, I get 106. And then take the square root. Now, I'd like to leave the answer exact. So 106 is not a perfect square. Is there a perfect square that goes into 106? Let's see. What are my perfect squares again? 4. Okay, can I divide it by 4? No. What's another one? 9? No. 16? No. 25? I know 25 is not going to work because it doesn't end in a 5. 36? No. 49? No. 81 isn't going to work. So it's already simplified. So exact answer is just leaving it as the square root of 106. Okay, now I have these 2 angles to find. I just need to pick one. So let's say I'm going to find X first. Now, only go off of these sides that you were given. So when I'm labeling like opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse, I want to use the 2 sides that were given to me. So what is the 5 in relation to angle X? Adjacent. What is the 9? Opposite. So I would have for angle X, this is what we just did. What trig function am I using? If I have adjacent and opposite? Tangent, yep, TOA, O over A. So tangent of X should equal opposite over adjacent, so 9 over 5. I'm looking for an angle, so then I take inverse tangent of both sides. So the measure of angle X will be the inverse tangent of 9 divided by 5. Now angles, this I obviously have to round, so we'll still do 1 decimal place, 60.9 degrees. Okay, and then I certainly can use another trig function to find the measure of angle Y. I don't have to. If you know two angles in a triangle, you can find the third one. I think we talked about this one day. Anyone know the three angles in a triangle, what they should all add to? 180. If you know two of them, and actually since this is 90, these two angles should add to 90. So the measure of angle Y is going to be 180 degrees minus the two angles I already have. So minus 90 and minus 60.9. So 180 minus 90 minus 60.9, meaning angle Y should be 29.1. Okay, so really, of those 6 answers, it took a little more work to find 2 of them. 3 of them were already given. All right, so not too bad, but it just means to find all that's missing. Questions there?